What up, folks? Dude, I couldn't be more excited to be here with you. This is a monumental moment because I think you are the oldest repeat guest that ever existed. In 2021 or 2022, I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that. And and I might be also on the older side as well. So,
Bro, I'm in my 40s, man. I'm a boomer in this space. I'm beyond a boomer in this space. I'm older than you are, bro. Don't worry about that. But welcome to the show, bro. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited. Honestly, again, just because I've experienced the Mikey G experience before, being on your show.
Yeah,
I am very, very excited for this conversation just because, I mean, again, I've done plenty of podcasts, plenty of streams, and you definitely are one of the better ones out there, man. So
thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I'm actually going to give you a shout out because this is an impact that you had on me that you probably never knew. Because I remember we got through it and you were so impressed. And one of your first comments was, bro, how do you not charge for this? I would easily pay $1,000 minimum. And that was the first time I got the feedback from someone that was influential in the space. And it really meant a lot to me and profoundly impacted the way that I thought about what I was delivering. So thank you, man. And you have no clue that you even made that impact, did you?
No, I didn't. And I mean, but I stand by it. I mean it. I think that, again, like I said, I've done plenty of podcast streams, etc. And there is a talent to it. And again, there's plenty of people, I'm not going to name names, but there's plenty of people that have big platforms and all that kind of stuff. And, we'll go on there and we'll do this whole thing. And that wasn't that dope. It was very basic, run of the mill.
And I appreciate it, man, because it's, we talk about, if you have not heard about this, but the people that are OG and, just avid followers of me, they hear me talk about this a lot. But I think why it's a little different here, everybody has a superpower. Mine is by far connecting with people in a genuine way. But that has also come from years of practice, right? And just little nuanced things when you say something, I'm deeply listening, and I'm actually been able to get to the point where I can process in real time what is going to be an interesting, relevant follow-up question to that. And there's just a lot of people that have somehow, right place, right time, luck, have a big audience. And so by default, people see the big audience, they're like, that means quality. But that is not the case, man.
No, it's not.
I can look back at the last 3 to 4 years. Vanity metrics are bullshit. And I've said this and I tweeted this a lot. I built a business off of a hacked Twitter account, by the way, and 12,000 followers. And there's people with hundreds of thousands of followers that probably don't even make as much money as I do.
Yeah.
And it's because of the quality. And I would say, one, so the second part of that is, right, so I've self-realized a superpower, but then I have an outlet, which is the podcast. And when I sit down in this chair, bro, I'm in the zone, bro. I'm so excited. And I just love doing this. And I would do this for free for the rest of my life. What's your thoughts there? Just to go a little bit off tangent. I love this concept. It's just passion. How much do you think passion really relates to success?
Oh, I mean, a tremendous amount. I think that especially when it comes to even entrepreneurship and being a founder, it's already so freaking hard to begin with. And I feel like I'm ripping off probably someone much smarter than me, but I think the idea is it's already so freaking hard that if you don't really love it and you don't really feel that much excitement to even just kind of get punched in the face and go through the darker periods, it's a lot easier to quit. And I mean, it's funny because not to cut ahead, but obviously I'm in the business of fun, right? I'm in the business of entertainment, of games and all that kind of stuff. And, I have friends that run startups and, I remember one of them, it was I'm not joking when I say this, it was a marketplace that connects employees with hospice centers for their father or for their parents.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, that's such a weird business. Like, it's like, how do you, I mean, I'm sure it does well, but it's like, how do you be passionate about that?
Yeah.
At a deep level, but nonetheless, people do it.
Some people, and I think there's that's a prime example. Like, maybe somebody is deeply passionate about this connection and knowing that at the outcome it's going to make somebody's lives better. I think obviously that's a novel thing to drive. There are people though that I think, and this is a large percentage, man, that have built a business and the money is still like, they haven't had the aha moment that like, when I get the money, it's not solving the problems. But I had, do you know who Kevin D. Gods is? He's a bigger name in the space, like super Silicon Valley, 25 years.
Yeah,
plus.
I know.
Sold his company to Microsoft for hundreds of millions. Like, amazing dude. He was on yesterday, and he said it in a good way too. And the other way for what we're saying it is, and here's the challenge: how do you get excited to wake up on Monday? Not Saturday or Sunday, right? And what is that? And for me, it is this, what we're doing right now. I am just deeply passionate about it. And what's cool about, and this is another thing too, is finding, you brought it up here in Web3. Fortunately, in Web3, there's a lot of IP, like more fun stuff, but I would much rather follow a guy like you that had entrepreneurship background, but you're just trying to deliver fun. Yeah. And the world needs more of that, right? Like, who can't get behind that? And I think the mission and what these companies are trying to accomplish should be more recognized as an indicator, not for you, but for can this founder get through the shit because it's something that you could be passionate about.
For sure.
Yeah. So with that being said, we already went off on the tangent, but we're gonna go back. Something that's super exciting we're going to do here. We already got a good amount of people watching. We want to let you know that you're going to get a free Dream Pass if you actually pay attention to what we're saying today. I'm going to ask a trivia question right after the stream on midlife crisis. By the way, just realized I have Mikey G NFT up there. It's too late to change that now, but my alt account for now is mid_life crisis. It will be scrolled across the bottom of the screen. We're going to give away a pass that understands. I could have just asked a question about passion. You don't know what's going to happen, but we'll be giving that away. Next up, a little update about me. Quick account got hacked. You're going to hear this until I get a hold of a human being that can get my Mikey G NFT account back. I have sent them photo evidence every day. Krish, we're going to have to talk a little bit later because you have one of those coveted gold check marks, so maybe that can help me out. I don't freaking know. So
okay,
REKTECH has a gold check mark.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Like that means a thing in this space apparently.
Okay.
I've got people like, I'm trying to track down Pons. I've got Philip from Canada Sapiens. I'm all over the place. So eventually it's going to get solved. Promise we'll be back. But again, one of the things that I was talking to Krish about is what's cool. What I've built is I'm not living or dying by my Twitter account. I've had more business meetings than I've ever had in the last couple of weeks. And I keep on being able to deal with amazing people like Caesar, aka Krish. So as far as people coming up, we've got the original, well, it's not original, amazing 3D artist in the space. He built all of the imagery for a kid called Beast. His name is Mr. Katz. He is launching a couple more projects. There are huge projects in the space that he has launched that you had no clue that this is the guy who made them. Super amazing, authentic, genuine guy. He's going to be launching his own project here soon too. It's going to be an amazing conversation. He is coming on Friday. Then we have OKD, another really cool Odd Kids project. Just really cool artwork. They already have millions and millions of hits on Instagram and TikTok, and they're building yet again another IP brand. I know it's an overplayed thing, but they have the right mindset. So that's going to be an amazing conversation and tons more, but I'm not going to take too much time to do that. After that, we are already into it. But the first thing we do before we get to the world famous Mikey G question is got a little background about Krish to make sure everybody knows who the heck this man is. Obviously, he's the co-founder of REKTECH. long time builder in the space back to, I think it was the end of 2021 we talked, maybe early 2022, launched the original Web3 game show internet game.
Yeah.
I always tell this too. We'll say it on you can get mad at me if I want. But when I first saw Krish's project, I was like, this looks a little dicey. Dude's giving away Bored Apes. That's like super expensive. I don't know whether to trust this or not. Yeah. But that did not deter me from reaching out to you. And when we had a conversation, I was like, holy shit, this is one of, because 2021, 2022, it was just the time of scams. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's actually giving away a Bored Ape and has built a company and a game around it. So I was like, thank God we finally found somebody that's doing what he said he was going to do. So the internet
Apes, by the way, had unclaimed ape coin as well. So like, you know, we literally didn't give, we could have taken the ape coin and we didn't. We gave away two.
How much was that Bored Ape and ape coin worth at that moment?
Almost $500,000 each.
Yeah.
Wow, crazy.
So yeah, that ladders up to over $3 million away in prizes. And look, this is an example of a guy that built a company and actually gave away a lot of the money that he made, and didn't just walk away with millions like all these other S-bags did. In addition to, he's got a ton of investors like Dragonfly, Delphi Digital, and a ton other. So welcome to the show, brother. But we have one more fun little fact, and you're going to deliver it. I usually deliver the fun little fact, but give us a little insight, just something interesting about you. I'd love to hear this.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is like a fun one. So, and again, we were just talking about passion, and I think it's actually really, I mean, I would say related to that. So my kind of fun fact, and frankly, even when I was raising money, there's something known as a IC, like a memo, like investor committee memo. And like this fun fact actually made it into every single conversation when investors deliberated on whether to invest or not. Right. Nice. They're like, which is a really interesting kind of piece of information that I never considered before. But basically, in short, I'm a giant Taco Bell fan, giant Taco Bell fan.
Yes.
And my favorite menu item on at Taco Bell is called the Mexican pizza. And a lot of people are you familiar with the Mexican pizza or no?
Dude, we had this conversation. I'm glad you brought it up. We had this.
This is my
marketing.
Yeah.
And what you don't remember is I quickly followed up with, bro, I worked at Taco Bell.
Oh, that's right.
I worked at Taco Bell in between, I think it was high school years, not college, high school years. And it was one of the most fun jobs I've ever had.
Bet. I wish I worked at Taco Bell, man.
Imagine this. I had a Taco Bell party with my friends, like Saturday night close. 15 of us, let them in back. All the food was still there, and we just made our own food. Like, you'd be in heaven. You could have made a 10-layer taco, a Mexican pizza.
That is so cool. But yeah, for those not to leave everyone on ice. So basically, in short, my favorite menu item, the Mexican pizza, was discontinued. And so, obviously most people, it's all right. Like, McDonald's gets rid of the McRib. Like, it's just kind of like life. Like, you move on. Not me. I basically started what is now one of the most signed change.org petitions, really ever, to bring back the Mexican pizza. And it took 2 years, but it worked. And now I'm on a first name basis with like the C-suite of Taco Bell. And they've given me a lot of free Taco Bell, a lot of Taco Bell swag, all sorts of fun stuff. But most importantly, I got my favorite menu item back from Taco Bell. So that's my fun fact.
I love it, man. And yeah, dude, I guess I can say this live on, like, what are they going to do to me at this point? So when I worked there, sorry, I'm just checking the abstract stream and it turned it up. When I worked there, it was, Phantom Menace or when they were doing the earlier Star Wars, right? And they had this huge promotion. And I might or might not have gone home with like a box of lids.
Oh my God.
It took me about 3 hours with me and my buddies, and we opened every damn lid. And like, of course, one of the prizes was like $1 million. And we literally won every prize except for like the cruise and the $1 million. But
oh my goodness.
We did it. And the dude, the other menu item that you really need to give credit to, the Choco Taco.
Oh yeah.
I might or might not have gone with multiple boxes throughout my high school career of Choco Tacos. So absolutely. Love that you love Taco Bell. I love that you started a petition, got the Mexican pizza back. But that we're going to talk about this. You know what? I'm going to ask it right now before we get into the question. I think you said something really interesting just with that. And this goes back to like, how the hell does Mikey even have a question just based off a Mexican pizza story? But what you said is this. This came up in investor pitch deck meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And having interesting stories and being able to personify you as like a real human being. We hear this all the time. How important is it for you to get the investors to not only believe in your business plan, but more in you? Like, what is the weight there in your mind of like, believe on the founder versus the business you're pitching? Talk to me a little bit about that experience and what you think is important in that process when it comes to you as a founder.
Yeah, no, I think it's all a function of the stage of the business at the end of the day, right? And even myself, I'm a former venture investor, and I think that basically the earlier the business is, the earlier the business exists in its kind of form. It's like, it's 80% the founder, 20% the idea. And right. I think one of the easiest kind of ways to prove this, if you think about it, is that like, how many times have you seen something or seen a business that's thriving or anything like that? And you're like, oh, I had that idea, right? Like plenty of people had the idea for Uber, right? Like, oh, wow, it'd be so sick to, press a car and then press a button and then a car arrives. But like the regulatory nightmare, the logistical nightmare, the human capital nightmare, the funding needs for all the technology associated with this. That's it's all execution. Is basically what I'm trying to say. And then execution it's not really about the business, it's about the person. And so I think to a certain extent, I can kind of glean this, but basically I think what any of these investors would say when, like they would bring up the Taco Bell thing. One is it's funny. And it was like, obviously in the mainstream media, it was everywhere. Like I was interviewed by NPR, like all that kind of stuff. Right. Like, right. But I think what it says is like, hey, this guy's passionate. He's determined. He has tenacity. He doesn't, he doesn't give up. Right. Yeah. Like it took me years of trying to get the Mexican pizza back. Right. And so I think that, if anything, it's just like, that's a good corollary to, the way that I would apply myself in a business, which potentially makes me a good bet. Yeah.
And so advice to audience that is in this position for you personally, and I'm interested in more like tactical examples of like, is it making sure to go into that meeting with multiple stories like that? Is it the getting really good at speaking? Is it how you dress? Like what is it there to you? Like a couple tips of advice, what they should be thinking about in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, like at the end of the day, it's really about communication. Like any investor meetings, specifically the bigger ones, and like obviously the questions and the digging and the diligence, all that kind of stuff comes kind of later on. But this person that's sitting across the table from you, they have 5-10 meetings a day. Each of them are 30 minutes long. And it's just like, why you? Like, why this? And it's not that. And don't get me wrong. Like I don't bat 1,000, right? Like I've had pitches where I'm like, I didn't do a good job in this pitch. I was all over the place. I mumbled, or I just, like even like the deck structure, like there's been so many times where like, I'm like, after going through this, like I thought this was a good outline or way to kind of move through this presentation. And actually it wasn't. Now we need to move this, and this. Because even with investors, specifically in these early meetings, something that I always say is that like, as soon as they have one reason to say no, it's really hard to kind of get them away from like, or like as soon as they like kind of find one way to find like a little bit of doubt, that's usually when you lose them, right? So to a certain extent, you need to be this kind of shining star and kind of communicating this idea effectively. Because again, especially in the earlier stages, like it's more so about painting a vision of something that doesn't exist, and allowing them to see what you see. As opposed to like look at the traction. Obviously the traction's just as important to a certain extent, but like it's like, can you communicate it?
Yep, absolutely. And I think, it's beating like a dead horse, to be honest, as communication is. And again, which I love, I get to sharpen that sword, which I think is super valuable multiple times a week.
Yeah.
And I would add on to what I think is effective communication is not coming off trying to impress people with big words, short, concise, meaningful sentences that relate action and insight, and then shutting up and listening like I do on this show, and making sure that when you speak next, it either answers a question or is insanely relevant to what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
I think people just they get real nervous and they just try to fill the room with emptiness.
With words. Yeah. No,
words,
it's so true.
And you just, you're way better off pausing for 5 seconds than just jumping to it, and people get caught up. And honestly, like for anything, the only way to get through that is repetition, man. It's just repetition, like anything else.
Oh, no, for sure.
All right. Amazing conversation already, but we're getting straight to it, man. World famous Mikey G Web3 question. And for the audience, we're going to do it a little different here. We're actually going to do a kind of TLDR of episode 1 and 2, because my man Caesar's already been on the show, and we have a lot to catch up on Web3. And I think what you're going to get a lot of benefit here from the audience and people that listen to this later on Spotify is this man has a wealth of knowledge about how the industry has changed, and is one of the few people that has built something successful in the first bull run, now is back and can use those learning lessons and think about how he's going to apply it this time. And I think that's going to be a very, very valuable, fruitful conversation. So we're going to leave a majority of the time to talk about that. But that being said, we're still going to go through the famous question, which is, Krish, how did you get to the seat you're sitting in today? Please give me episode 1, 2, and 3. To reiterate for the audience and for you, we're going to do top 2 or 3 moments from childhood. Here, what I'm really, really interested in is vivid memories, mantras that family members or parents had you live by that really molded the mind that you have today, things that you still rely on. So really interested in that insight. Episode 2, you've been a serial entrepreneur, you went to school, but here I'm interested in the wins, failures, more like failures I think are more interesting. Leadership, mentors, insights gained to prep you for Web3. And then obviously episode 3 is Web3. We'll go back to internet game days, and I really want to have a robust conversation about the shift, the changes you've seen, and how you've evolved and grown. So start anywhere in episode 1. I know it's a big question, but whatever comes to mind, man.
Yeah. I mean, so I think one of the things, and you kind of nailed it earlier, right? Like, people talk about like, using big words and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think the thing about me, and this is something that was always kind of even from a thing from childhood, is that like, I'm just a kid from New Jersey who likes to have fun. And I think that like, like I wasn't the, the studious, AP class kid, but I was bright. And so it was always this kind of juxtaposition for me where I just, followed my heart a lot more than I did, my studies and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, it kind of took me to exactly where I needed to be.
Right.
And, had the ability to really just kind of, I think really through not my intellect, but rather my ability to connect with people, being, of Indian kind of, I guess, origin or descent, traveling the world, all that kind of stuff, all these kind of like experiences that really just impacted me and kind of made me a little bit more of a world citizen, that gave me a lot more, perspective on life, that a lot of folks don't really get. And so, when I do think about my childhood, I think that it was like, I wasn't really the most studious person, but I think that the amount of life experience that I had, kind of growing up was impactful because it allowed me to kind of connect with so many people from so many diverse backgrounds, just from even a very young age.
I love it, man. I love
Yeah.
it. And so, real quick, I'm gonna chime in here already, because obviously when you're going through it, you're not having these like insights and aha moments, but reflection. The exposure to different cultures, is it just style and communications? Is it the way people act? Was it like what was it that resonated with you? I think I'm asking, when you had these exposure to different experiences.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is that it's truly like, we can intellectually understand how big the world is, but to intuitively understand how big the world is a very different thing.
Right.
And even in Web3, like I say all the time that like Web3 is actually more global than a lot of these kind of more traditional Web2 businesses, right? Like even in REKTECH, right? Like we have people playing in REKTECH from all around the world, right? Like where they're doing their best to communicate, like they're probably translating into ChatGPT what they're communicating in the Discord and all that kind of stuff. And I think that a lot of people perhaps don't have that much, I mean, I don't know, grace for different types of kind of cultures and people and situations that, you know, for me, I think just from being around and just traveling a ton as a young person, it gave me a lot more kind of just empathy for humanity.
Dude, I got chills there. I don't know why. Because you said grace and you said empathy, and it's like the world needs this. And I think what's really cool is you learn that from a young age. And you know, it's interesting to me that I've come to that conclusion. And, you know, the furthest I've been to Germany once. Yeah, I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. Even that, like thinking the US is large, right? You start going through the US, and I've had European people say like, holy crap, like I did not realize how big the United States is. But to your point, I don't even, that's why I want to travel, because I know there's like so much more out there. But I think what you said was the most important thing. And tell me what your philosophy is about this. I think it all boils down, even if you take religion, all of these different things, it just boils down to be a good human being. Yeah. It sounds like the travel at a early young age, even if you didn't know at the time, was starting to get you to reflect that like, oh, this place is huge. People might be different, but I need to also understand where they're coming from. Just being a good person is super helpful. Thoughts there?
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, it's like, what does it mean to be a good person, right? Like, you know, I think at the end of the day, being a good person is, I mean, it's twofold. One is just like, you know, obviously the golden rule, which is treating other people like you'd want to treat yourself. But like, if you think about what that really is, it's like, it's acceptance, right? And it's just like so much of being a good person is accepting differences of opinion, of religion, of privilege, of situation, of you know, no one is the same. And we, like, again, like I grew up in a particular way, right? Like I always say that to live is to have trauma. And so,
oh yeah, you're right on that one too. That's a short.
Yeah. And I think that, like, you know, we all have different types of trauma that come from our different experiences. And the question is like, how much kind of, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but like how much love can you kind of have for other people and their situations that allow you to understand them better, because you understand why people do things. It would make sense to you, right? So I think it's just like, again, like I said, it really does come down to empathy.
Yeah. And so here's one thing that I struggle with too. This is something I'll struggle with the rest of my career. And when I start businesses or who I work with, is I deeply care about people, obviously, hence why I do what I do here. And it's very hard for me to just be an asshole to a human being. But I think also some people, and even me myself, I'm guilty of this, have confused being empathetic and kind is the ultimate end goal, whereas there's nuance to that, because you still, and let's use business perspective, you still have to be hard at times to get things done.
Yeah.
Does that mean you have to be a dick about it? No. So love the conversation. What is your thought process there? Because being an entrepreneur, you're in the thick of it. Anything, your time is of the essence. Sometimes you only have a runway of a month, maybe 2 months max. And you need to get things done. So there's this balance of like being empathetic, but also getting shit done. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I think that like there's a difference between you just reminded me of a funny story. But there's a difference between what I'd call kind of like empathy, generosity, you know, grace, etc., and to a certain extent stupidity. And and so the thing is that to a certain extent, like let's you know, a bad example of it is just like a manager who doesn't want to fire an underperforming employee, right? And like, so to a certain extent, you know, you don't want to do it because you don't want to have the conversation, or what are they going to do about work, or like, you know, like they have a family, like there's a million different reasons not to let go of an underperforming employee. And it usually does come from a place of empathy, right? But you know, as you know, again, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a business owner, as a manager, etc., like your number one goal is really kind of success and protecting the business. Like that is what, like I have a fiduciary obligation to protect the business. And again, you can have empathy for the person that is now in this, you know, kind of less than ideal situation because of their lack of performance or whatever may have you. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do the right thing.
Right.
And I think like it's just understanding the difference between being a nice person and having empathy.
Beautiful insight. And dude, I mean, even now, I feel like that's a great like little slice into childhood. Is there any other one thing that you would like to touch on, or do you think this kind of travel, learning empathy early does some good justice for you?
No, I mean, I think I would probably, just if I'm being completely honest, and I think that you probably elicit that out of people. You know, I have like any kind of founder and all that kind of stuff. I have a bit of chip on my shoulder, right? Like, you know, I was just like a nerdy, skinny little Indian boy, and you know, like the cheerleader didn't like me. You know, I wasn't the coolest and all that kind of stuff, and I think. Especially when, you know, the world, like, again, like bad, like just a kind of really kind of personal thing to say, but I was 10, 11 years old during 9/11, you know, and I'm American. I'm from New Jersey, right? Like, and so, you know, when all of a sudden your world is, you know, your internal world and the way that you see yourself as a kid, especially, right? Is not mirrored by the external world because you're different in some kind of way. You know, the color of your skin, the food, like whatever it is, right? Like that kind of stuff can have an impact on you that we, again, like I said, to live is to have trauma. And so I think that a lot of my efforts as I did mature are probably driven from some level of not feeling like I was good enough.
I love that, but I love, and so here's my question on this one, because I see this all the time, especially in corporate America. You can tell there's a chip on the shoulder, but it went wrong. I'm assuming at some point in your life, maybe it went a little wrong because that chip got a little bit too big and the motivations were wrong, right? But obviously, from getting to know you and seeing how you present yourself, and the fact that you did have a chance to walk away with millions and weren't a shitbag and didn't do the wrong thing, you've come to some realizations. For that person that has a chip on their shoulder, because they will, I promise you, someone with the chip on their shoulder will listen to this show. What are the insights on the evolution of that process, and just maybe how to tame that and maybe not make as many mistakes as possible other people might have?
I think, no, for sure. I think that the chip on the shoulder, to a certain extent, the way to kind of decipher if you do have it or if it is impacting you negatively is like really the kind of, what's the difference between arrogance and confidence?
I love it.
Right? Because arrogance, it comes from a place of frankly, like emptiness. It comes from a place of this need to prove something And like, yes, you can have something to prove, but if it's coming from a place of fulfillment and passion and vision, excitement, as opposed to like, look at me, I'm better than you. That's where all of a sudden it leads, like, again, it'll lead you astray in these micro decisions, because everything's a dick measuring contest to you. Everything is
Right.
you know, like everything's about like how do I win against this person?
Yes.
As opposed to someone that's confident. I think that, again, it's like I said, it's balancing empathy with stupidity. But then it's also about like, how do you actually find win-win situations in everything?
Yeah, I love it, man. And with the hundreds of conversations I've had at this point, I actually have never heard, because what you repeated is the same philosophy with the emptiness of passion that we were just talking about, which is, if you're chasing the money and that's the only end goal, that is empty, right? But you just related it to the chip on the shoulder, which was just another really interesting way to, again, I say this a lot on the show, man. This shit's not rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
For thousands of years, people have talked about the golden rule. Long, hard work over a long period of time, treating people kind, having a mission and passion, all of these things that we've already said today.
Yeah.
But you just framed that same principle with a chip on the shoulder explanation. And that shit was beautiful, man.
Thanks, man.
Beautiful.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I feel good about the youth here already. I mean, that gives me some really solid insight to you as who you are as a human being. I would love to move to episode 2. And here I'm really interested in, we touched on it a little bit about the individual matters, especially in the beginning of an entrepreneur startup. But your entrepreneurship journey, or any jobs that you may had, let's talk failures first, man. 2 huge failures and learning lessons from that before we get to the whole Web3 situation.
Yeah, for sure. So, I just the kind of quick background was like, I studied finance in school, and like, not because I loved it, but because I wanted people to think I was smart, right? So I talk about arrogance, right?
There we go. See, this is why we do that. We already have context.
Yeah, right. That was again. It came from a place of arrogance. It's not like I liked it. I did no intention of going to finance. It's just like, if I said, "Oh, what do you study?" It's like when someone asks you, what do you do? Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I study finance, or like, I'm in the finance, blah, 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 like.
That's such a New Jersey, New York thing to do too.
Yeah, it is. And, but then, for me, and I'd always been, somewhat interested in the arts, and like, I wanted to go into movies and like, maybe be a writer, director, or something like that. And so I was really always interested in kind of creative business and all that kind of stuff. But, the iPhone had really started to come out, and kind of grown popularity towards my latter years in college and university. And so, I got bit by the tech bug, right? Startups everywhere, mobile apps, becoming billion-dollar companies, like, kids from college, like the Facebooks and the Snapchats and Instagrams and all that kind of stuff, right? So for me, I decided that, around 22, that I really did want to go into tech. And so I basically spent my early years just working at a mobile app development company, where we basically built apps for third-party people, third-party companies. If, like, let's say you ever wanted your own mobile app, you would go to these studios and they would build it and all that kind of stuff. So, I got to cut my teeth in the kind of technology ecosystem. What does a good application look like? How do applications even work? All that kind of stuff. So that was like really my true schooling, right? Like, that's where I actually learned. And then from there, again, 24 years old, arrogant. And what did I want to do? I'm like, I've spent 2 years here. I know everything I need to know. And so, obviously, I kind of took my first swing at entrepreneurship, where basically I was like kind of more or less invited to join the startup from the ground up, which was like this kind of hotel tech startup. I learned a lot of lessons the hard way that I still think about today.
Right.
And I think a lot about, those moments. But like, that was, it was the interesting thing is that, like, now even thinking about it, like, everything in my life has been like kind of failing upwards. This is actually something that Scott Adams talks about. He actually has an entire book on it called How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big.
Right.
And so the truth is that like I've actually never applied for a job in my life. Every single job that I've had up until being self-employed from the age of, I guess, 28. So since 2018, every single job came from the previous one.
Right.
And so I think that there's just kind of something to that. And
totally agree.
And so, but yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I think that like even Bill Gates, he says that success is like a lousy teacher. You know, so I think that you really just kind of got to get punched in the face a lot to really intuitively understand something as opposed to intellectually understanding something. You can read all the tech blogs in the world, but you don't really truly understand something, like unless you're a genius, but you don't truly understand something until you get punched in the face.
Oh, absolutely. And so again, in the framework of this tech person, because obviously we're in Web3 and tech is the future with AI and everything coming up, from your knowing that, like you said, this was in the 2010s, then looking back, any tangible examples of those failures? Like, what are the things that you think about?
Yeah, I mean, I think about like, it's like kind of what kind of business models work. You know, I even talk about something I talk a lot about is again, because it's like I call them meat and potato businesses. So you know, like for the example that I oftentimes give to people, because a lot of people have different ideas, and frankly, I'm like somebody that, and it sounds like I'm bragging, but like people will be like, "Yo, I have this idea. Can I talk to you about it?" Yeah. So I'm someone that people
great trait to have.
Yeah, will ask me about that, and I'll oftentimes say that, like the example I give is like, let's say I'm fixing you dinner, and I give you basically a plate, and it's just like a bunch of potatoes. Right, you're gonna be like, what is this? Like, where's my dinner? Like, this is a side. And if I gave you just a plate and it was just a steak, you'd be like, okay, cool. I guess I'm just having this steak, right? But you wouldn't think about it like, I don't have these potatoes. Where are my potatoes? This is not dinner without these potatoes.
Right.
Anyway, all of this to say, oftentimes people build businesses or have business ideas that are good businesses, but they're kind of more so tangential to like a true need or true want. From consumers or buyers and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that they oftentimes like, yeah, it's like, this is a good concept, but it's only a good concept next to a more meaty business idea or business concept.
Yes. And that is prime example, my podcast, right? Like the perception of coming on a podcast is you're not paying to come on a podcast, but I have a really good experience. So like, how do I get the meat portion out of a podcast experience? I've been working on that, and it's lots of trial and error, but that's an example, like a tangible example of that.
Yeah.
Love the meat and potato analogies. I think my question here now is, because I haven't talked a lot about this on a podcast, I need to be getting input from founders more, because what's cool is tech has changed, and now we have this whole Gen Z and younger, you know, we have we have 16-year-olds grinding in this space. Not advice to them, but what do you think the 16 to 22-year-old of today brings good, different to the space that our generations at 16 to 22 did not bring? What are your insights there, and what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, one is like, you can't compare. It's too hard to compare, right? Like, again, you know, you aged yourself. I'm 35, right? Like I'm
43, brother.
Yeah, right.
Like, 81, bro.
You know, I had a dial up, and then like, you know, I didn't have my first iPhone until I was 22, right? Like, so even Wi-Fi, the access to information, the access to AI, the access to, like, you have everything at the tip of your fingertips in a way that we never did, right? So like the exposure that you have via the internet and the kind of the efficacy of the internet effectively is what's the major difference between, let's say, a 16 to 20-year-old today versus us being 16 to 20, right? Like 16 to 20 for me, right? Like I had a flip phone, right? Like, we'd Ethernet cables, like, these are things like just even social networking was in its infancy. Short form video content where you can learn a lot in 30 seconds. That concept didn't exist either. You're still reading long form blogs and all that kind of stuff. So And then not to even mention AI, right? Like, and really just the efficacy there, where you all of a sudden just have an expert in really any type of field right next to you.
My
So
18-month-old son, I can't even imagine what that dude's gonna see in his lifetime. But I got you beat, dude. I was 10 years old. I hadn't even heard a dial-up modem yet.
there you go.
Like cell phones didn't even exist. So I'm glad that you shot back with that in the sense of just comparing. But I think I framed the question wrong. What are, like, do you actively pursue a young person because of the context that they've grown up in? How critical do you think these subsets of generations understanding tech in different ways is important to building a company in Web3?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a saying in tech which is called the right tool for the job, which is like it's like if you're building a finance app, you want a kind of more, I mean, I would say, I'm trying to think of like the right word for it, but like, you'd want like a tech stack that's like a lot more secure versus something where it's like a quick, like a social app where security isn't as important. You can actually build it with a much more lighter stack is the only way that I'll describe it. But basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, you can also say that as a founder or as a business owner, et cetera, right? Like, Gen Z marketers have a different sense of what people resonate with. Even my team, like my marketers are all in their mid-20s, and you see, like, I see the content that they're putting on the REKTECH X page, and I'm like, what? Like, what? But like, it's just they have a different sense of humor. They have a different perspective. They have a different sense of what's cool, a different way of talking, a different language. And so I think that, like, to a certain extent, there's also like there's a saying of like founder market fit. There's probably like a founder business fit, right? Like a 20-year-old launching like some sort of perps platform, like less interested in that than someone that comes from like the trad finance world. So I think that there's something to be said about different types of businesses having the right type of people at the helm based off of their instincts.
But I love your feedback, and I actually think there's a generalization that if you're in Web3, you do need a young person because they understand the talk, they can be the popular kid, they can understand how to run the spaces and stuff. But what's cool is you gave an actual entrepreneur answer. And this is the thing that has drastically changed. I'd say even in the last year, man. Like, even a year and a half ago, I was still just having conversations with people that had no clue how to build a business, or even who their target market was or what problem they were trying to solve. Not saying you got to get it right at first, but even having a thesis, right?
So yeah, go ahead. No, this is actually one of my like kind of tracks that I've with regard to REKTECH and today, that like the market today, and you really did see it last cycle more than ever. This cycle actually a lot less so, just because I think not only has retail gotten smarter, but basically like the type of kind of what's working in Web3 is a lot different than what was working in Web3 last cycle. 100%. And so what I've found from my observation from last cycle is that you really have three types of people that you probably spoke to. Like three types of, like, this is my bet, because you've done so many of these interviews. You had three types of people on your show. The first one was basically someone that was a good marketer, that was a good speaker, and they had a project, maybe it was a PFP project, etc., and they had no intention at all about doing the things that they were talking about doing. They're basically scammers, grifters, whatever may have you, right? And they just basically LARPed being this person that was gonna like jam-pack utility. Oh, you're gonna retire on this JPEG. Like they didn't care, right?
I'll call him out right now. Punk X Hollywood Bored Ape dude came on my show. I was 100% convinced this dude was making it happen. And this was when the metaverse was a big thing. And dude, he had some sick looking artwork redefining the punks, and yeah, dude, straight grifter.
Yep, exactly. So there's so many of those stories, right? The second kind of category of people that you probably spoke to was the person that came on there and they, again, were a good speaker, but at the same time, they actually had very good intentions.
Yes.
Right. So the thing is that, but frankly, what they were trying to do, they didn't have the capability or the capacity to do.
Boom.
And so that probably actually makes up a bunch of people, because it's just like, I can't tell you how many folks that because now I'm relatively well networked in the Web3 space, and like I've now met folks that had, relatively large projects where they're like, oh, like let's start a NFT project, or let's start a whatever, and it just, for whatever reason, it took off, and it took off a bit more than their wildest dreams. And then to a certain extent, they're like, oh, okay, like now we actually have to execute on this, but we actually we don't really realize it or not. It's like, I actually don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And then because of that, they tried with earnestly, only to find out that they kind of suck.
I'll get another. I'll just rip all the examples. By the way, I have these frameworks too. JR, one of the most amazing human beings in the world, genuine dude, original creator of OniForce, straight up said on my podcast, he was like, bro, if you know what JR is? JR is a brilliant hype marketer, like brilliant, right? This son of a bitch got Gary V in the OniForce Discord, right? Like not many people can pull this off. JR can, but when you have I don't know, it was some insane like $20 million overnight of revenue. Yeah. They're all artists. They're like, what the fuck do I do?
No, for sure. Right? I've seen. I'm a little bit more PC, so I'm not gonna name names, but like I'd be shocked sometimes at like the level of grift that somebody just like was like kind of just like they thought we were friendly, so they were just like being honest with me in a way that I was like, this is fucked up. And then also people where I'm like, how the fuck is this person running this company? Right. Like how did this happen? And sometimes it just was the market. And then just to kind of finish the loop, or the third camp is frankly like folks like us, right? Like at REKTECH, like my co-founder and I are both like very, very effective entrepreneurs. We have had a ton of experience. Like again, like I look at my age as actually a good thing, right? Because I've been kicked in the teeth a lot, and I've seen a lot, right? And I think, and then at the same time, we've kind of gone through our professional studies, so to speak, right? Like where I've gone to kind of grow up in the space. And so where you actually do have a kind of concept that is well thought out, but then you actually do have the ability to execute on it. Yeah. And so those are like kind of the three groups. I don't remember why we were talking about this anymore, but
because we were talking about this is how REKTECH comes into play in the evolution of Web3, and we kind of skipped there. Yeah. And by the way, the reason I named names, well, not the Punk X guy, but like JR and I have openly talking about this on the podcast. I'm not like trying to out anybody.
I don't think you are. I'm just saying no one would.
I am trying to out Hollywood, because that son of a bitch grifted and just disappeared, and he took millions of dollars. Yeah, exactly. And was on my podcast, so I hope that guy gets punched in the face multiple times. But we drifted here because it made sense as a natural segue, but I do want to go back and get into episode 3, because you've already given us a wealth of knowledge, and bro, we've already been talking for almost an hour, which is crazy. It feels like 10 minutes. This is always the good sign of the podcast. I want to take the rest of the time on Web3 and REKTECH and why I was so excited when you reached out. I was like, dude, because we even had an idea of like, let's get all like my founder resume is insane. Yeah. How can I not activate the founder resume to like create something? And I think it's just because everybody's busy. And I'll start here. I just think it's so financially driven still that like, even if you get a bunch of founders or quote unquote, like, I don't know, top tier people in the space, it quickly just degrades into like, what's the meme coin I can trade? What's the alpha? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how do you move past that? I don't know. That's what I see. Do you have a different opinion? I don't know.
I mean, I think that this is the kind of problem with the space. And like, I mean, the thing that I'll kind of point at is that like Web3 kind of started off as this like, grand vision, altruistic, permissionless assets, financial freedom, banking the unbanked, all these like really kind of beautiful ideas that then turned into kind of like flipping JPEGs, which then turned into flipping meme coins and vaporware and all this kind of stuff. And
we had the ICO before that.
Oh yeah, of course, even the ICO, right? Like, but I guess to a certain extent, like this is like the funniest thing. Like everyone, especially over the last couple of weeks, have been so mad at Pump Fund, and because they're like, oh, like meme coins have ruined the space. And to a certain extent, like, well, I could argue either way on this, but the point that I find very interesting, because and Alon, who's one of the founders there, he basically says, is like, dude, if we didn't make Pump Fund, someone else would have. And it basically fulfills a market need. And the thing that we run into is that everyone's pointing at Pump Fund being like, Pump Fund ruined the market. It's like, no, the market ruined the market.
Right.
The market ruined the market.
Human behavioor ruined the market.
What we've done is we've said, hey, you can buy this JPEG for $50 and then sell it for 500 or 5,000 or 50,000, whatever's next. And then all of a sudden people are like, okay, cool, like amazing, like flip JPEGs. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, these are illiquid and they, these guys are promising one thing and then they can't even deliver. And then now I'm holding this asset that I can't sell. And so then eventually, again, it exacerbated into these meme coins that have LPs. And then all of a sudden you think about KOLs, right, that have audiences where all of a sudden it's just like copy trading exit liquidity, right? It's like, oh, cool. Like, let me build up an account, create a public wallet, talk about this coin, or people see me buy this coin, and then I just sell it, right? Like, it's the easiest money in the world. But the things that people like, so you have this entire market of marketer, like of, again, the KOLs in the space, the tools that allow for this kind of thing, like the Pump Fund. But at the same time, like, why would any builder, unless they're crazy or something like that, like me, do anything else besides give the market what they want, which is the chance to make a lot of money or just get rugged?
Yeah,
right. So it's like it's the market, because like at the same time, you're right. Like, there's levels of alpha, there's rooms out there, man. Like there's like I'm in pretty cool text groups, but like there's text groups that are much cooler than the ones that I'm in. And I think it's just a part of it, right? Everyone's attracted here we built an entirely like an overly financialized market that really only cares about one thing, which is how are you going to help me make money?
Yeah, 100%, man. And I had a thought, but I lost it. Dude, this was a really good thought, but we'll come back to it. So this is where we're going to go. Take me through the 2021-22 internet game, like original idea. Mm-hmm. And then wherever you want to go from then till REKTECH, and again here, the learning lessons.
Yeah.
What were the fails, the learning lessons, and then we'll get into what REKTECH is doing and why you're trying to do it differently this time.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. So basically, in short, my co-founder and I, again, we've known each other for a long time, and I think that's one of the reasons that we work together so well. We met when we were 20, but I've always kind of had very similar tastes and had very different skill sets while having very similar tastes, and we both have been kind of purveyors of crypto since like 2015 was like kind of when we both got involved, hearing about Ethereum and all that kind of stuff. So, we participated in the ICO boom and then round trip that around the tail end of the ICO boom. Like, we had this idea for like, again, like a kind of a game, like a crypto game, like, and we like tried to build it, but like, again, the market died and we just kind of like lost interest. And we were one of those people that like kind of were like tourists, like where we like left until we realized that, hey, like crypto's picking up again. Like this is like late 2021. And obviously now all of a sudden things like NFTs are this like really big thing. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, NFTs come out and we're doing that whole thing and buying altcoins and yada, yada, yada. But what had happened was there was this, again, I guess to go maybe take a step back further, right around the time that kind of crypto was popping off again in this 2020 to 2022 cycle, my co-founder and I, we really kind of got together around the idea of like, hey, like let's start a company together. And the area that we wanted to focus on was like what we call or refer to as like interactive entertainment, right? Like the idea of like kind of mixing gaming and social media in a way, because we think that like over the course of time, that's where we're headed, where you're going to like social media will be significantly more interactive. It'll be significantly more gamified and all that kind of stuff. Instead of you just reading, it's actually, you can interact with it in a much deeper way. And so that was this kind of like thesis that we were chasing. And, you know, we're like just talking about all these different types of ways to explore it, all while kind of participating in the, you know, crypto space, NFT space, et cetera. So you have kind of like that macro idea with our kind of just daily life, just participating in crypto. And then something really funny happened, which was there was this tiny little show out of South Korea that became a huge global phenomenon. That was called Squid Game. Yeah. Right? No, it wasn't Squid Game.
What year was that? 22, 21?
It was late 20. It was August 21.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. It was right around then.
Yeah, August 21. And so, like, you know, obviously, like for us, we're like, whoa, okay. So something that I've always said is that like whenever like a piece of fiction kind of takes the world by storm, my theory around it is that we vicariously, or like we kind of are living in this kind of vicarious world where it's like, yo, I would totally be in this like life or death situation for like the chance to win 20 million, 50 million, $100 million, right? Like, I think that's why, again, people watch the freaking South Korean show with subtitles, is because the idea was so compelling. Right. You know, I liken it to like, you know, anyone that got really into Harry Potter, like they just daydreamed about the day that they would get their invitation to Hogwarts.
Right.
You know, like that's just how it worked. You know, you walk out of a Marvel movie feeling like a superhero. It's that vicarious desire. And so, you know, so we basically started talking about it. And we're like, yo, like, what if we kind of built in like online version of Squid Game, but like with NFTs, right? Because it was this very interesting space where it like Web3 technology specifically, again, people don't even realize this when I say this, because when I say NFT, people think PFPs, but I'm talking about like the practical applications of NFT technology. The ability for you to own a particular asset and then trade that asset to someone else. And then there's metadata on the asset that is transferable and ownable by now someone else, right? Like that is what an NFT is if you really think about it, but people think JPEGs. And so all of this to say, you know, that's basically how Internet Game was born, right? Like, you know, for us, again, it wasn't like a very creative name. We like basically launched Internet Game, and we, you know, people very quickly got the idea that like, oh, this is Squid Game, but in Web3, this is Squid Game but with NFTs. We didn't even have to say it. People just got it. Right. And because we were in this like land of PFPs and jam-packed utility, and you know, everyone is kind of like just building the same kind of thing, talking about like, you know, effectively just trying to like replicate the Bored Ape model. Right. We stuck out. We were different.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And you, I don't know if this was engineered. Tell me about this, because I was a hate mod at the time, right? Which was like next level. Will never be replicated again. And my like alpha chats were talking about it. So was that engineered, or do you think it was just you kind of lucked out because it was that simple to understand?
I think it was that simple to understand, where, because basically here's what you had with NFTs, right? Like at the end of the day, because the supplies were so small, a lot of prices were just out of reach for so many people. They were no different than Rolexes, right? Meme coins don't have this, because you can buy $50 of a meme coin or $5 million of a meme coin. You can join a community, but like for 99% of people, the idea of winning a Bored Ape, or owning a Bored Ape, was incomprehensible, not a thing. And so now all of a sudden you democratize the ability for somebody to win something that they so deeply desire. And you make it all of a sudden more possible. And that's a very compelling thing, because not many people can be like, oh yeah, like I'm going to get into NFTs. Like, let me go buy a Bored Ape. It's like, you can't do that, man. Like most people can't do it. So I think that what we did, like quite literally, like we put our money where our mouth is. We basically launched the website and bought a Bored Ape and said, we're going to give this Bored Ape away. And again, like you kind of said at the beginning of this, a lot of people didn't believe us, right? Like there was a lot of trust that we had to build, and like we doxed ourselves. We like did videos, like, you know, like being like, hey, this is who I am. This is my real name. Like, this is where I live. And so I think like, we built as much trust as possible. And I think that it just kind of started to snowball that like we started to get enough believers where people were like, you know what, I'm going to mint this ticket to play in this 5-day elimination style tournament where I don't know what I'm playing.
And what was your entry price at that point? I don't remember.
See, that's actually what's crazy. It was $300.
And you like want to talk about timing?
Yeah.
No chance you would be able to do that right now.
No, I mean, dude, REKTECH is $40.
Yeah.
REKTECH is a $40 ticket. Yeah. But here's the thing is that like the timing was both a gift and a curse. Because basically we launched effectively at the end of the day, like we launched in February of 22.
Right.
The market crashed in May of 22. So like basically we launched at the tail end, not knowing it, like no one ever, like even right now, like everyone's so confused as to where we are in the market right now. Like I don't know, like I'm freaking out about it internally. Like it was a terrible time to like, to like come out with REKTECH, if I'm being completely honest. Like it's, so like it's interesting because it's just like, would you rather be too early or too late? And, I think the thing is like, I actually right now, and maybe this is just like cognitive congruence. It's like, I think I'd rather be too early. Because you actually then have more time to build a brand, right? Like Bored Ape didn't sell out. Like, people forget this, like they didn't mint out. And so all of this to say, the timing was peak mania, right? Peak mania. Our this is a fun fact that most people don't know. Like, we basically bought $2.3 million worth of NFTs with the prize money, right? We basically did a mint, and then we took the large majority of the mint and then just bought $2.3 million worth of NFTs. This is before sweeping was a feature on OpenSea, and like you couldn't sweep. Like, it's actually.
How long did that take you?
Dude, we had to spend $1 million in a week, one by one. And it was like, I think we spent like $7,000 on transaction fees alone. Wow. And what was so crazy is like one of my partners, he was the one who was responsible for it. And it took him hours. And so
I can only imagine how long that took.
But what was crazy was by the time the game's finished, that like $2.3 million or whatever it was had appreciated to $3 million.
Wow.
And so like that's how crazy, like, again, you don't think about it. You're like, oh yeah, of course. So like it just appreciated $700,000 in a week. And it's like, like you don't think anything's wrong with that when you're in the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that should have been the writing on the wall with where we were in the cycle.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you right place at the right time in the essence of revenue, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is Tape, Imaginary Ones, Phantom Network, like these massive projects all launching right around then. You're in the mix of these things. You're a name that people know. Take me through the learning lessons and mistakes and take that and segue that into why REKTECH now.
For sure. So I think it's like it's a bit of a blessing and a curse because I think one of the things that we actually have the very mistakes that we made are the very kind of things that allowed us to sidestep a lot of I think hate that a lot of big NFT projects had, right? And like it's not like we were the most massive project, but we were. I always say all the time that we're like a if you know project where I have two reactions of like categorical reactions of when people meet me and I say, oh yeah, I started internet game. They'll either say, oh my God, that's amazing. Like that's so cool. Like I remember that was one of the most fun things I ever did in Web3. Or they'll be like, what is that? Yeah, right? Like
exactly. There's no
in between for me. And so like the interesting thing about internet game was because we weren't a PFP, we didn't have like a really strong sense of community. We were like an event, right? Yeah. Like we were a thing that happened. Like people didn't refer to us like, so we didn't have like the Frank D gods, like, what are you doing with like the mint price is going, like we didn't have people on crypto Twitter yelling at us because their PFP was decreasing in price, right? We didn't have that, the Hape issue or the D gods, like all these kind of like very hype PFP projects all of a sudden were like put on blast because price go down, right? Yeah. While a lot of people with us, there was a lot of goodwill because we were like an event. But because of that,
delivered on what you said you were going to do.
Yeah, that's also true. We did deliver on it. But again, like I said, it was this thing where we, again, the very mistakes, again, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, we didn't have like a PFP that created the sense of community. Like, there weren't people on crypto Twitter like rocking our coin. Like, our PFP was like a coin. It was like so it was like, it was like this thing where, we didn't have that. Timing, I think, was a really, really big component. A lot of people looked at our project or our NFTs as like a means to an end, so they didn't really value them. You're buying the internet game NFT to win the Bored Ape, to win the Neo Tokyo Citizen, to win the Doodle. You don't really give a shit about us or our project and what we're doing.
Right.
And then, I think that was the other really interesting thing, was that we then raised a bunch of money because we were actually like we were frankly one of the few projects that like had technology behind it. Like, we built the games and the platform and all that kind of stuff, and then did the mint. We weren't like, we're gonna do this mint, build it, and then
which was what everybody was doing,
which is what everyone did. And to me, it was like, again, like, you think about the type of founder we are, like the founders and the company we are. It's like, even REKTECH has been in development for 2 years. The amount of iteration and evolution, it used to be called Mind Games at one point. It's the name is even different. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that because of that, we were actually able to stay alive and sustain in a way that a lot of PFP projects didn't, because it's like, all right, cool, there's actually nothing differentiatable about this. Like, the only PFP projects that did raise were like the Doodles and the I guess Moonbirds, Bored Ape, very, very few. I think, I guess, VFriends to a certain extent. But like most of those PFP projects, they just kind of fade into the distance because they just kind of ran out of money. And again, they were, part of founder number 2, like group number 2, which didn't really have anything to execute on, didn't really have a vision beyond community. Yeah. And anyway, all this to say, we basically then just all of a sudden we're backed by Dragonfly, Delphi Digital, Parify, Collab Currency, which are now frankly blue chip, VCs. And we're like, well, what the fuck do we do for the next 2 years? And because we tried to run 2 seasons of internet game in the bear market. No one gave a fuck. We partnered with Lionsgate. And did internet game Saw. We brought a movie franchise into Web3. No one gave a shit. No one gave a shit.
Isn't that crazy to think? It is. And it goes back to the whole thing of people were just there to make money. Mm-hmm. Still are to this day. Mm-hmm. It is this next evolution of because why I got into it, I don't know if I ever told you, my original thesis was brand 3.0. That's what I've always called it. Mm-hmm. And it is fundamentally an opportunity for companies to build with community in a different way. Mm-hmm. But that's still so far off years later.
Yeah. It should, but again, it's that's, I mean, I feel bad saying this just because, and maybe this is a kind of the dose of I don't know if anyone's frankly listening to this or not, but I think the idea is
generally hundreds of people listeing.
No way. Okay. That's crazy. Well, I was going to say
people is listening on my alt account, which is wild.
Well, I guess the thing that I want to say is that it's just the market is going to continue rugging. Sorry. Projects generally speaking are going to continue rugging the market if the market allows them to, right? And so the thing is that you have different types of builders in the space, you really do. And so the thing is that you have someone like me where I feel like a douche saying this, but it's just I want to create the most fun experience in Web3. I want to give people that participate in REKTECH the ability to make money in a way that's not scammy, that isn't taking money from other people, but at the same time, more importantly than that, to have the most fun experience that they can have in Web3. That's really what it's about. And it's frankly, this is the truth. I've been more honest than I've actually. I think it's the Mikey G power, though. I think
Mikey G power, baby. You're feeling it right now.
I've been so transparent and frankly vulnerable on this, but it's frankly a risk for us to do this, because theoretically speaking, I have the top tech talent on my team, and we could easily build something that's just not like it's Ponzi economics, right? And like, it's just like, but if people want like crazy APYs, like 50,000 APY, and I'll put $10,000 into it, and oh my God, it's worth 30,000. Now it's worth $3,000, right? Like if people keep investing in those types of things, what's to stop people with less integrity to continue building those things? Nothing will, right? Because it's all about product market fit, but it's the market that the product is trying to fit with. It's not the market trying to fit with the product. It's the product trying to fit with the market. But if we are continually acting on pure greed and acting on like just get rich quick and all that kind of stuff, the space is just going to continue to turn into more and more of a joke. That's just the truth. And all of the beautiful altruistic yada 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 things that it was really built on, those things will cease to exist, and it's just a bunch of like scams, effectively.
And then you got the hack that just happened too. Like, I mean, it doesn't stop. My freaking Twitter account is hacked. But I love that you bring this up, because obviously I believe with you 1,000%, but I have the content perspective of that, right? The one thing I refused to do was tweet about the next hype project. And dude, you want to talk about
dude, I was just about to,
the easiest time to build followers as a KOL in this space was in 2021, 2022. Not only could I say like, retweet, comment, which by the way, doesn't mean I didn't do that, but I at least did it for things I believed in. But I had hundreds of DMs to say, dude, I'm going to pay you $1,000 do the like, tweet, retweet. By the way, just on one post, I would get 400 new followers.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it is to get 400 new followers for me right now?
I know, it's so hard.
It's impossible.
I have 3,000 followers, and I've given away $5 million in the space. I've partnered with Lionsgate. I've built 14 different games. Like, I have 3,000 followers.
So hard, right? And like, I mean, I think I was up to over 20,000 followers during the Hape days.
Yeah.
And then I didn't tweet for a year, and it went down to like 10, like in half, right? That's just all bots. The point being that we have to change. And I've never veered from my path, because the reason why I actually ended up doing this was like, people need to be informed. And my version of research for this space is, I'm going to do what we're doing right now. Everybody can listen to this podcast. Hundreds of people are right now. They can make their decision on whether they want to spend, by the way, $40 freaking people $40, for somebody that has already given away millions of dollars. But yet you're going to go spend $40 on some shit meme coin and totally lose it. Why would you not spend that $40 with my boy Krish?
That's the
why would you not do that?
Yeah.
You know? So that is why I do what I do. But dude, just two parallels saying the same exact thing. I thank you for sharing that, because that was a very tangible example of people that haven't been around. And the other thing that I think that we're doing that is so important is, you just saw Abstract do it, man. They got over 1 million wallets already. You know, that's no joke. And again, they built it without an airdrop. None of this bullshit Ponzi-nomics stuff. Yes, they do have a reward system, but it's rewarding creators. It's rewarding builders. It's not reward. And by the way, it's rewarding users. Like, you can get experience by just watching this stream on Abstract, which is like a novel idea. Wow. Yeah, we will do that, right? And so these are going to come more and more. And we had the same conversation. Just the last thing I'll say before we move on is, Kevin and I had the exact same conversation yesterday. And he said, this is also a part of evolution, right? Even if it doesn't happen as fast as we want, people are getting smarter. The hacks will continue to happen. All of the meme coin stuff. I mean, God forbid that guy killed himself, right? Did you hear about this guy?
Apparently. I mean, like,
who knows?
Yeah, I can't deny. Yeah, but like,
I think it's.
Oh wait, you're talking. Sorry, you're talking about the dude who on the stream. I thought you were talking about the Aiden guy. Yeah.
No. The robot guy. This guy really fucking killed him. There was a guy that fake hung himself a little bit.
Okay.
But like, dude, like, where do we need to get? And on top of it, dude, the crypto timeline is. I did a really long post on it like 2 weekends ago, because I just had it. I was like, how are we going to even get more toxic than this? Like at some point it's got to change. And by the way, there's no mistake. And this is why I believe in people like you. Before I got hacked, my account had grown exponentially in the last month because all of this was starting to manifest. And they were like, holy shit, there's a guy like Mikey G that somehow still exists in this space.
Yeah.
I think it will. And it's the same mantra that we talk about all the time, is if you just go for the long term, and you're doing it right. I'd say we talked about this with Kevin. Long term, 4 years minimum, 5 years minimum, 8 to 10 years more like it, right?
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Product. That's just what the time you got to put in.
And I mean, and I think that's actually the frankly the founder's dilemma is like, basically it's like, how do you meet the market? Like, because like no one has 8 to 10 years. Like we don't like, and so for us, like even with REKTECH, like I know we haven't talked about it too much yet, but like it's like, you know, for us it's like gaming that is super accessible to people. And I actually want to kind of come back to this, like, but like the reason that we do that is just because, you know, we're not trying to build like the next Fortnite or anything like that, because like no one in Web3 gives a shit about playing the next Fortnite except for the people that are really into Web3 gaming but like that's a very small subset of people, right? Like, you know, for us, I think it's about meeting the market where it is as much as possible. It's about being like, there's a term of art. It's novel but familiar. And so like, because the things that, and you, as long as you continue to be novel and familiar, you can meet the market where they are, and you can evolve what they value through delivering. And again, all of a sudden, like, again, it's crazy to think about, but I'm 4 years into this. Like we're almost a 4-year-old company, which is crazy talk. I can't believe that. But like the people that are the internet game, like we have some hardcore fans, like for sure. And they value us because we were like the first project that wasn't a complete like scam PFP thing. And that's the thing that they respect about us. But even kind of going back to what you were saying about like, even like Cole's influencers and like kind of, I call them critics, right? Like I say this sort of Web3 is effectively just made up of like kind of critics and builders, right? And then retail. Right. And what's interesting is that, like, you know, for me, because I've been around, because I spent so much time getting kicked in the face during internet game, like if anyone asks me for money as a KOL, I do not work with them. Right. I do not. It's and like it's so funny because, like, you know, for me, like I'm now so well networked. There's very few people that I can not get in, I guess, in touch with, so to speak. And I'm just, even all the listeners, if there's anyone that you ever see, any KOL that's talking about REKTECH, we pay them $0. Zero. They just they fuck with us, and they really care about the product and the space not being full of just vaporware, right? And just to put it in perspective, someone like I've talked to now a number of people, some of which have been canceled and all sorts of fun stuff. Like I've been quoted $25,000 a month for 3 months for them to talk about REKTECH. And I was just like, get out of here. Like, what do you think this is? But like, that goes to show is like the people that are willing to pay that they're not like, that's what I'm trying to say.
The wrong intentions.
Exactly. The people that are willing to pay that, and the people that are willing to accept money, kind of already kind of fucked. But then that simultaneously, those are the problems that the products that get a ton of attention, and then they get a ton of attention, and then you wonder why we're just rife with scams, right? So it's a vicious cycle.
It's that short-term mentality that we're talking about again. Like it comes up time and time again, man. So I just realized it's 4:11. And we've been talking for an hour and a half, and we barely talked to REKTECH. I'm technically supposed to go pick or take care of my kid at 4 o'clock. So we might have to have a part 2.
Okay.
But I do want to give you, I'd say I can get 5 minutes.
That's perfect. That's all I need.
And
I'm gonna do some
REKTECH. But we've done the damage is done, brother, because we now know that you're building something legit with passion. You've been around for 4 years. You've given millions of dollars away. This is the shit people need to hear anyways. And I cannot write. I'm actually thinking of this new, because on Twitter, the long form posts seem to be doing really good. Like Pix is one of the guys. Even Kevin D-Gods did it yesterday. Well, they'll do like 15 thread tweet and say like, hey, here's the story behind X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
And then it gets millions and thousands of tens of thousands of impressions. I'm gonna start doing that with this.
Oh, sick.
It's like, hey, here's the actual authentic story of Krish, who is a real builder in this space. And we'll be able to now take this narrative and turn it into a beautiful thread that hopefully will get a ton of eyeballs. I think we did the hard work, man.
Yeah,
so let's do the easy work, which is now we got people amped up to hear what you have to say with doing with REKTECH. I'll ask that one final question. I don't know if I asked you last time. This might be new. I'll give you my closing comments and we'll call it a day, brother.
Sounds great. Awesome. Well, yeah. So to answer the question, what is REKTECH? Or we always say, what the fuck is REKTECH? So REKTECH basically is it's the future of interactive entertainment, right? And like, again, even for those of you listening, like if you've been here this entire time, I super appreciate you. And for us, it's really about exploring the kind of convergence between a social experience and a gaming experience. And so REKTECH is effectively built on what was Internet Game, which was this kind of Squid Game of like a Squid Game type of experience. Like it's a game show, but from the comfort of your own home, right? You can be on a game show. And so the idea is that we operate REKTECH in seasons. This platform that we have, again, has been 2 years in the making. The games on there already have been played over 2 million times. And the way that it works is that you do this mint, and the mint is actually live right now. It's live on rektech.com. And I'm going to actually do something really special for the people that are tuning in. So if you are still here,
I love it.
Hang out for a little bit longer. I promise. I had an idea, but the way that it works is that you mint a Dream Pass, and this is basically access to our ecosystem. And then from there, we have these different, what we refer to as seasons, right? But seasons are very short. Seasons are literally only 4 days long. A season basically starts on Monday and ends on Friday. It's basically one game per day. Each game is open for 24 hours. Each game only takes 5 minutes to play. Mm-hmm. But then what we do is we have life-changing prizes on the line. Right. And so, for example, like literally next week, we're giving away a Pudgy Penguin.
It's happening, bro. Yeah. The Bored Ape.
Yeah.
Who would have thought multiple years later is a Pudgy Penguin?
Craziness, right? The following week, we're giving away a Rolex. And these are just the top prizes, right? There'll be prizes for people that come in 25th place, for example. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing is that we literally take, again, most, if not all of this Dream Pass revenue, and we put it into this prize pool, and we just continue running these seasons.
Right.
And then simultaneously, the cool thing is that you can buy as many Dream Passes as you want, because each Dream Pass acts as a player, right? So you can be in 5th place, 50th place, 500th place, but you get more turns at bat. Simultaneously, again, as we continue marketing REKTECH and we become more and more popular, people can effectively come in and buy your 50th place pass or whatever it is, right? Because you actually now own that performance on the total leaderboard of REKTECH. Right.
So you're actually attaching performances to passes too.
Correct. Right.
And so interesting.
Yeah. So like, again, theoretically speaking, someone could come in and buy like a very high value pass because someone who owned that pass did really, really well and played in the games every single day and all that kind of stuff. But simultaneously, if you just want to buy the lowest tier one, you could, right? So they can come with two different prices. But at the same time, the ecosystem completely continues to develop, right? We have, again, you can see my PFP right there. That's a Dreamer PFP. These are going to be a very low supply PFP that's coming out. But again, we've built them in a completely composable way where we have over 4,000 different traits that have different levels of rarity associated with them that can actually increase your multiplier, which increases the XP, which then increases the value of the assets that you have. All while, and I mean this when I say it, all while having the most fun that you've ever had in Web3, because you're just going to go crazy with the types of games that we built. We built over 30 different games for REKTECH, and you never know what game is coming. Every single day, there's a new game, and you have no idea what's coming, and then you're playing for life-changing prizes. Not only will you make a ton of friends from all around the world, you'll be messing with each other. The amount of psyops and mind games that takes place here is absurd. And yeah, there's just, so much happening. Even REKTECH as a platform is powered like third-party partner. We've done dozens of third-party partners where we ran a REKTECH for like a REKTECH season for Bonk. We did it for Eclipse where they had 11,000 people play. And
it's so cool, man.
Flawlessly. Like, again, like that's what I'm trying to say is like, if you want to actually spend time on a real Web3 project and like not like ignore the meme scams and the ruggers and all that kind of stuff, like this is the place to be. This is going to be one of the most fun things you do. And, you know, I promise you, we have a lot in store.
Yeah. And I would say the thing I'm going to layer on here is do one of the things that, and I don't know if this is part of your marketing, but I'm going to give you this freebie for free. I would really think it would be a big opportunity to, like, yes, you're going to have a PFP, so you're going to have a little community, but I almost think like you're the catalyst to start new communities and they necessarily don't have to be yours, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
It's like you're the friendship generator as well.
Oh my God, yeah. Like
a game, right? Like that's a huge, I think, benefit. Like this is bringing back what Web3 was about.
100%. And like we actually that's like on our Mint page. It's just like, you know, REKTECH is great for you because if you miss the good old days. And like the thing that's really interesting about this is like like I can't tell you how many third-party communities utilize REKTECH almost as a service, right? People are like, where does the money come from? It's like people are like, other projects are paying us to utilize REKTECH.
Beautiful.
But then at the same time, people are learning about REKTECH from that project and then coming into the REKTECH community and buying passes from you, right? So it's all of these types of things that we're doing, but it's a gamified experience for the community that's gated to their asset and they're like having fun together because of REKTECH.
By the way, I don't remember if you remember that we linked up like probably over a year ago and we talked about you actually doing this, but you actually delivered on it yet again.
Yeah,
which is amazing. Because this has always been the whole, like, Engage bot, Alpha bot, like that is the true power of building a product in Web3 that is community agnostic. Like all these different communities can get hyped up about and using it. And if you can build a product like you have again, but now layer, like think about what EngageBot and AlphaBot did and it was just a functional product that made life easier. You're now making a product that can be used by multiple communities via competition. And I want to link you up with these guys. Have you talked to the Spredict guys? Have you heard of these guys?
No.
I want to link you up with them because they're doing what I think is really interesting is the same way but they're doing it through betting, but not the toxic gambling betting world. They're trying to gamify community betting, right? And like using their service as almost a white label for communities. Like me and you are really into NBA and we're gonna do, but they're doing passes. Cool. They're doing monthly passes, right? So I have a pass dedicated to me and my boys betting through NBA using their platform, and it's all interoperable with their token and everything too. So like
very cool,
similar idea, and I think there's a lot of synergies there. So I got to link you guys up. Remind me.
Yeah, no, I love that. No, that's sick.
And that's amazing because we went through the whole ecosystem, and like I said, we did the hard work. So when it comes to you explaining REKTECH, you don't have to go that deep in. I mean, it makes sense, right? You're bringing back the fun of Web3 that it was 4 years ago. In addition to, you're not charging an arm and a freaking leg. It's $40 to get a chance. You're still giving away high prizes and knowing that it's going to evolve over time. And then, like you said, this is the one thing that I want to cap it off with before we kind of start closing it out. What do you think the number one thing that you've implemented with REKTECH that you think is going to be a differentiator over your internet game? Like, to make you sustainable, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. So internet game, basically we were like, again, like a traveling circus. Like we were an event, like for like, you know, so we're here, right? And like people had a really great time and then we went away and then we came back. It was like, you know, they were like sequels. Right. REKTECH is an ecosystem, right? There's so many different, there's ways for whales to make money in REKTECH. People who don't have a lot of time. There's ways for people that have more time and want to have fun to make money in REKTECH, all while having fun, right? And then simultaneously, we have REKTECH as the platform. We have the PFPs. We have ecosystem rewards. Like there's all these things that it's basically if we did internet game right the first time, this is what it would have been, right? And like this is what I'm trying to say is like beyond even just REKTECH as the game show. Like if there's a bigger reason to get involved in the community, it's like at the end of the day with REKTECH, like I basically am aiming to be like this interactive entertainment platform, but it's like really about kind of positioning ourselves as like the Red Bull or even the Mischief of Web3, where if you really think about Web3 and what it is, you have people, you have technology, and you have permissionless, financialized assets effectively, right? And for me, I just want to mix those together in really, really fun ways. So we do all these different types of drops that you can make a lot of money on and all that kind of stuff, but you'll really get access to it from being inside the REKTECH community. So it's not just playing these games. So it's just, we've just had a lot of time to think and build and tinker and evolve. And we now have something super, super special.
Right, dude. Freaking love it. You got me so amped up. I mean, I knew I hadn't had time to go down the REKTECH rabbit hole, but I can't wait to jump into the Discord and do all the fun things. What was your surprise?
So, you know, again, I for me, especially when you're on these StreamYard things, it's like, I have no idea if there's people here, people listening at all, you know? So I'm just like, you know, at the very end,
250 people watching.
That's crazy. So, you know, for anyone that's here, that you took the time out of your day, I can't express to you how much it means to me that you listen to our story and that you listen to this conversation. And you know, if any of you are interested, basically this is my offer to you. Our mint is live. I can't promise you that you'll win money. I can't promise you that you win anything. I can promise you it will be one of the most fun things you do. That is my only promise to you. And I promise you that we are real builders that are going for the thing, going for the gold, whatever it is.
Going for the gold. Doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Going for the golden rule.
The mint is live on rektech.com, REKTECH.com. It's a Solana based mint. It's $40, 0.25 Sol, whatever it is, probably less now because the market crashed. So now there's even a better time. Basically, if you mint on the public mint, DM me with proof and drop your wallet. I will take your wallet and put it on the allow list, and you basically get a buy one, get one.
Oh, look at this, people. Let's reiterate that again. Say that one more time.
Yeah, basically, if you mint on the REKTECH website and say, hey, pardon Mikey G, you know, tune in for Mikey G, et cetera, you know, here's the, you know, proof that I minted, right? And again, like I said, if you were here earlier, I was talking about kindness and all of that kind of stuff. So please don't scam me here. I will you'll just drop me your Solana wallet. I will add it to the allow list and you'll get a discount. So that basically you're just getting I guess it's buy one, get 50% off or whatever it is.
You're getting a buy one, get 50% off if you get one right now for $40. So for $60, you can have two instead of 80.
Exactly. And I would say that generally speaking, like you want to have in REKTECH, like I can tell you right now that the average person is minting 3, right? Yeah. You want to play with 2 accounts because theoretically think about it this way. You play with both. Each game only takes 5 minutes to play. Like it's 10 minutes of your time every day when we have a season. You'll have a fuck ton of fun. And then simultaneously, as I bring more and more people into the space, you can flip one of them and then you're playing for free. So there you go.
Dude, well, that was tons of fun. And I appreciate you giving that offer, man. And we are going to give a Freeway 101 after Freeway 101 after this podcast. I'll tweet out first person to answer the question, the trivia question. We're gaming here too about the show. Whoever answers that first gets a free pass.
There we go.
And so this is it, man. I don't know if I asked this question or we had added this, but something I ask and asked hundreds of founders at this point. Real time, honest, open feedback. Now you've been on the experience twice. You've been part of thousands of spaces in the space. You've been part of podcasts before. Honest, open feedback. Again, of going through this experience, the podcast today, brother, hit me.
Again, like I said, I think that you're top class, man. I think that you are such an active listener, and then your brain is able to create these connections because again, if you think about like this, like it's fucking like talk therapy, right? Like I'm not aware of the words that are coming out of my mouth, like as I'm saying them, right? And so I think that like to a certain extent, you were able to create connections and patterns between a bunch of things that I said from independently answering questions, but you were able to kind of create the theme and the kind of, I mean, frankly, subconscious Freudian level kind of connections between kind of the individual, their words, and their view of the world. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing because I think that perhaps, there's probably so many things that I'm unconsciously, my decision-making is probably so much more unconscious than I realize. And I think that when you do talk it out, you're like, oh shit, like there is this kind of corollary. There are these parallels. There are these connections between the various aspects of who you are and the way that you interact in the world. And I think that you're really good at eliciting that.
Thanks, man. And it gives me chills because that's exactly what I'm going for. And I think to add on to that, man, one of the things that, and this has taken me a while to get to, is I have this feedback about what you just said too. I've turned this into part of my value proposition, which is I just give you time to reflect, man. I mean, think about how busy we are day to day in, day out. We're looking at multiple devices. I'm trying to, manage. I've got 3 screens looking at me and I'm still having this authentic conversation, but that's just the day and age we live in. Mm-hmm. But for a founder that's so smashed all the time, for you to be able to take an hour and a half out of your time, which felt like 10 minutes, by the way.
It flew by, yeah. For
you to really reflect on this stuff is critically important. Meditation, all of these things that you should do, but you don't do. Mm-hmm. I get you to do that. I wanted to give self-reflection, but also just talk about yourself and help promote yourself, which is an amazing thing. So for sure. Thank you so much. And I'm still 100%, brother. There's not a lot of product market fit where you have 100% feedback that this was a good experience.
Yeah, you're too, man. Dude, I love it, man.
I appreciate it. My final comments for you, man, and then we'll shut it down is I already knew you were a good human being. You're the only one, bro. Yeah, you are literally the only one that's been on my podcast that has come back multiple years later with just as much fire, with just as much passion, and by the way, has improved upon your idea. And this is the testament, man, of why we talk about these principles all the time. I can't wait. I'm going to use you as my first long form thread tweet to see how it does.
I appreciate it.
Because it's just the test of time, man. You've learned so much. You didn't give up. Me and you both didn't give up. And I think that made this conversation more fruitful. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I promise you this from my end that which I should have done better, but I didn't know. I really want to continue to figure out how to work together and grow our fruitful friendship that we've already built.
100%.
I think me and you have such an opportunity to help each other out and grow together. And I just want to win with you, man. Let's make mistakes together. Let's win. Let's try streaming the game on my stream and giving you some more exposure. Let's try doing some things with my community. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to make it an active part to make sure that we continue to communicate. And from the bottom of my heart, man, it just means the world to me that you took an hour and 42 minutes of your life. That's already worth thousands of dollars, brother.
I appreciate it. Likewise.
And I will reiterate, people, for all of the people that are still listening, by the way, for an hour and 40 minutes later, get the guy a follow. Take $40 and don't spend it on a meme coin and give it a shot. Guarantee you will have fun because his original game was fun. So I'm assuming 4 years later, it's going to be more fun than an original game.
It's so much better.
So much better.
Wait till you guys see. It's crazy. Yeah. So again, 5-minute games. Think Degen Wordle games. Anyone can play. Anyone can win. You'll have a blast. Anyway.
Thank you so much for your time, brother. And with that being said, I knew this was going to be amazing. Caesar and Mikey G are out.
See you guys. Thank you.